Hey guys, welcome back to Zakari Hikari. My name is Zach, and as you know, here we discuss everything related to conscious manifestation, higher consciousness, manifestation, Neville Goddard, the law of assumption, all that good stuff. So I know you guys have been waiting. I'm finally ready to do the video on Sailor Moon. Okay, before I start, I just want to say, if you're not a fan of Sailor Moon, if you're not a fan of anime, that's absolutely fine. There's a much deeper story within this that's going to help you understand consciousness and conscious creation. Okay, please watch this. This is a masterclass. Sailor Moon, especially Sailor Moon Cosmos, is a masterclass in manifestation. Okay, this is going to be a bit of a longer video because I want to give a lot of background. I want it all has to. It's a whole story altogether that I need to kind of go into and explain for you guys to help you fully get it. Okay. Now, before I start with that, again, if you guys want coaching, it's been amazing lately. I've been getting a lot of success stories. I've been getting a lot of in-between stories. I've been getting a lot of, just a lot, a lot of movement from a lot of people. And I've been doing the coaching. Pretty much my slots have been filling up like in the morning and after work when I have them open, and sometimes on the weekends. But have a look. If one of the spots doesn't work for you and you still want to do coaching, book any slot and then email me and ask me to change it, and I'll try to work with you to find a slot that works for you. Okay? So, starting off today, I wanted to first kind of give the history of my history related to Sailor Moon. Okay? I've always been a huge fan of the show. The first time I was actually introduced to Japanese was through Sailor Moon. So it was actually through the third movie. If you guys were anime fans, if I have any like hardcore fans back in the day of the 90s, before anime had this big boom in the States, it used to be a lot more of an underground kind of nerdy thing. And they used to have these things called VHS fan subs or fan subtitle tapes. And basically what it was they would take the masters or the LDs, the laser discs, if you're not familiar with that, what that is, but they would take the video from the laser discs or the VHS from Japan. They would use computers to put subtitles on and make a master copy of the VHS subtitle tape. And then they would distribute it by like mail order, or if you were like me, you drive across state lines or have your mom drive you across state lines to an anime store where they would have that master tape and they would have copies, and sometimes it'd be a copy of a copy. So like the video quality would be really, it would vary greatly by tape. Okay. And my friend, she was in my brother's grade when I was, I think, in 8th grade or so. No, 5th grade. It was 1999. I was like huge into the Pokemon boom, but I loved the animation, the anime, and she said, if you like that, you might like this. And she showed me this VHS subtitle tape of the third Sailor Moon movie, which had not been available in the States yet, that she found in like this secondhand clothing shop in Rhode Island. It was crazy, but after hearing the language, I just absolutely fell in love with it, and I was always very much drawn to this story, and I didn't fully understand why. Okay, so that's what we're going to get into here, is the production history of what Sailor Moon is. Okay, now, if you guys are hardcore anime manga fans, you probably already know this, but for those of you who don't know how anime works as an industry, anime, generally, a lot of the big titles are based on what are called manga, which are all behind me, and this is the Sailor Moon manga, which is a Japanese comic book. Okay, now a lot of series and most popular series like One Piece, Dragon Ball, they run in a weekly magazine that people either do a subscription to, or they go to like their local convenience store, and every week they have it right there. It's like this big, huge, fat book, and it has about like, I think like 7 or 9 stories in it that are continuously going every week. Sailor Moon was a bit different, but I digress. Sorry, when they get enough volumes, they are published in what are called tankobon, which are like these graphic novel books behind me, and they take all the individual chapters, and there's usually like maybe 9 to 11 chapters per volume. And One Piece right now is at over 100 volumes long. Sailor Moon was a little bit different because it was published monthly in a monthly magazine. Okay, and the author of Sailor Moon, her name is Takeuchi Naoko. She was, I think, 24 when she first started the series. She had a PhD in chemistry. She's a doctor in chemistry. Very, very, very smart lady. And she's very much so in tune with a lot of astrology, a lot of the spiritual realm. And I think a lot of that influenced her work. Now, when Sailor Moon was being done, originally it was actually a story called Sailor V. But her assistants and her publishing company went above her head. So oftentimes when manga is really popular, it's turned into an anime series. And anime series in Japan typically, especially ones aimed at kids, run for every week. So every week nonstop. It's like the most insane production ever. It's not very expensive per episode, and usually the people making it don't get paid a lot of money, but it's just a very, very intensive process. And when they took her work, they were doing it weekly, and her work was only running monthly. Now, a lot of people criticize the Sailor Moon manga because they say the story pacing is really fast and really choppy. Honestly, there's been interviews that she's done about this, and it's beyond her control. The publishing company, they give her, or the magazine, they give her only a certain amount of pages per month, and she has to fill a certain amount of story per, whatever, however many months there is. She's given like really strict time frames as to what she can get done. So when the anime premiered back in the day, they wanted to aim it more at a younger audience, and it ran as a weekly series. So very quickly, the anime caught up to the manga, and they were actually running simultaneously at the same time. So she hadn't even finished the story yet while they had the anime series going. So a lot of times, like, the stories would differ between the two, where the anime would like take some of the main plot points and the characters, but the conclusions would be completely different. Okay, and the way they got there was completely different. It was really much more of like a Power Rangers series. It was a beautiful, beautiful, very well done show. The music was amazing. They had a lot of top animators in the show. It's a very famous show for a reason, but it was very different from the manga. Okay, and Takeuchi-san, I went through a lot of interviews and did a lot of studying for this, but she was very grateful to the anime. She thought it was crazy seeing her characters on screen and seeing it every week and seeing how popular it was, but she wasn't so thrilled with like the creative liberties that they took with her story. And while she understood it, because she said it was like kind of what they say in Japanese shogunai, which means it just can't be helped, because they were running simultaneously. So it was just, the nature of the beast, didn't really have a choice. But she was really grateful to the anime in the way that they fleshed out the characters in ways that she couldn't with her limited pages to actually put in a lot of depth for the characters. So the old anime really helps to flesh out the character development, flesh out a lot of the characters' personalities, even though sometimes they really much differ from the original work. Okay, now this is all tying in for a reason. So when the anime was licensed back in the day, they had like global broadcasting rights, and every country did different things with it. So they would edit it down. In America, they wanted to make it really for kids, like a kid's show that was already kind of for kids, but it had a lot of adult themes. There was a lot of violence, there was a lot of death in Sailor Moon. They took it and they wanted to edit it even more for a kid's audience. So a Disney subsidiary company called Deke Entertainment bought the rights to the show back in like 1995, 1994. The show started in 1995, and they did 67 episodes dubbed in syndication. Now, the old show was heavily edited. They edited the music because they had to edit a lot of the scenes, and if they just edited like cues where the music would jump, it wouldn't make any sense. The characters' names were different. A lot of the plot points were different. A lot of characters' relationships were toned down. There's just a lot of heavy censorship with the show. And she used to write in, I went through, literally, there's three English translations for this book, or her works. I went through like the old 1998 Tokyo Pop edition. I went through the 2011 new translations at the time, and then they had the new translation with translator notes from, it's actually finishing next month, the last volume comes out. And I went through, obviously, the original Japanese edition, which we're going to be going through with a ton of sticky notes to kind of really emphasize a lot of the plot points. Okay? So, she used to write, back in the day, a lot of manga creators, in the side pages of their novels, they used to write these little, like, notes about, like, what's going on with their life, their current impressions, like, things that they're seeing, things that they've been doing. Like something like this, where she's just writing about like what's been going on, her impressions. And she wrote about going to America and seeing the show, and she really did not love it. She thought it was cool that it was, airing in America and in such a big country, but she didn't like what they did with the voices. She didn't like what they did as the whole product was just so vastly different from her original creation. Okay, and the thing about Sailor Moon, it's an inspired work. And again, you have to remember with my inspired work series, when I talk about this, inspired works doesn't necessarily mean that the author knows the true intention behind the work. Creation is finished, and when you reach a certain flow state of creativity, creation, the flow, the universe, whatever you want to call it, it speaks through you in order to express itself. So oftentimes when you see these inspired works like One Piece and Sailor Moon, there's a much deeper message within the work that even the authors might not be aware of. Okay, and that's what makes it an inspired work, and that's what's just so crazy about it. So when that happens, oftentimes, because they know it's such an important work, they become very protective of the work and the true meaning of the work, and they don't want it to get edited. They want it to be seen, okay? And her Bridge of Incidents that got this, um, in the timing, it's just amazing if you think about this, okay? So she wrote this original, because back in the day, Sailor Moon anime, it was not going to have the same global appeal that it has to this day. And because she went through this Bridge of Incidents, her work is reaching such a larger audience, okay? So back in, I think it was it was the early 2000s, she ended up suing her publishers. I think she sued the animation company as well, but she wanted the rights to her show or her creation. So she ended up actually suing them, getting majority rights to Sailor Moon. So she is literally the sole rights holder. Well, really, there's three rights holder. It's her, the animation company Toei Animation, and her publishing company Kodansha. And in Japan, I don't know if this is true for all companies everywhere, but in Japan, a lot of times, a lot of popular, media franchises like Pokemon, it's not just the Pokemon company that owns the rights. It's Pokemon, Nintendo, and Game Freak. Okay, so basically, she is she sued the rights to get her characters and get the rights to her characters back. Okay, and when that happened, she ended up making her own subsidiary company called PNP. Princess Naoko Planning. And every single thing that happens to Sailor Moon, whether it's a foreign rights, lending out the rights, whatever it might be, it has to be approved by her. Okay? So she they ended up taking all of Sailor Moon off the market worldwide. It wasn't available for a lot of years in America. It wasn't available in Europe. It wasn't available anywhere. It was only available in Japan. And what she did next, I think, is absolutely brilliant. So they took it off the market. I think it was maybe about 10 years or so that they actually ended up taking it off the market completely. And during that time, she negotiated with Toei. This is my interpretation of what happened, but they ended up announcing the new revival of Sailor Moon, which was Sailor Moon Crystal. And this was a new anime that started back in 2014, I believe. And then after it started in 2014, what they ended up doing was they made it frame by frame. It literally was only based on her comic. So every single chapter was based entirely on her manga. So finally she had an anime that was literally so faithful to the manga. Now, there's a lot of different opinions on Sailor Moon Crystal. It was Sailor Moon Crystal, and then they had two movies, Sailor Moon Eternal 1 and 2 and Cosmos 1 and 2. And the first two seasons of Crystal were not very good. The animation was really wonky. The pacing, obviously it was because it's based on the manga. The pacing was kind of it couldn't be helped, but there's a lot to be desired with the Sailor Moon Crystal reboot. But because she did that reboot, she was finally getting her story told. Now with season 3, they had a lot of new writers come on, a lot of new animation staff. They put a lot more budget into it. Then they did the movies, and gradually the series really became the series that it should have been when they rebooted it from the start. Now, Sailor Moon, this is the last kind of piece I'm going to throw in there, and if I think of something else, I'll mention it in a later video. But Sailor Moon is divided into 5 manga arcs or story arcs. Okay, there's the Dark Kingdom arc, the Black Moon arc, the Deathbusters arc, and then there's the I don't know what it's called, the Circus arc. It's like the Dream Mirror arc, whatever it might be called. Please correct me in the comments. I don't know why I'm not remembering this right now. And then they had the Stars arc. Okay, and the old anime has 5 seasons that somewhat kind of mimic those arcs. And Sailor Moon from the start was talking about past lives. It was talking about transcending time. It was talking a lot about really deep, metaphysical topics that normally would not have been covered in anime in the same way. Okay? And when it came to Sailor Moon Stars, the last arc of the anime, it was never licensed officially in the States. There was no English version of this available worldwide in the States at any time. Okay? It just wasn't available. So when that happens, basically they never for some reason ended up releasing it in the States. So it was like the lost arc, the lost episodes of Sailor Moon that really were never properly dubbed or aired. Now Sailor Moon went through a lot of different incarnations in the States back in the day. After the first 67 episodes, it went into syndication, and then they took it off the air, and then there was this big Pop-Tarts thing called Save Our Sailors. You can look into it, where it was actually a fan-made what do you call it? Not like a petition to get it back on the air, which actually worked for the last 17 episodes of the second season. And then they went into dubbing the third and fourth season, and it was just crazy. And it's a very interesting kind of product of its time. It's not even available anymore, the original dub, legally in the States. And then when Viz Media and got involved with the new, re-release of Sailor Moon, they redubbed and redid everything. And every single character voice, every single line, everything had to be approved by Takeuchi Sensei. She had to literally approve everything, even like specific little things. And a lot of people would complain because getting the licenses to this show would take forever. And even after getting the licenses, every single thing had to be approved by her directly. Even the title, Pretty Guardian Sailor Moon, like it's called Bishoujo Senshi Seira Moon. And Senshi really doesn't mean guardian, it means warrior or soldier, but they switched it she switched it to guardian, I think because she liked the English meaning of it more, which makes sense within the realm of the story, but it sounds a little bit less cool. So basically, as Crystal went on, and then they did the 2 Eternal movies, which are all about dreams. The third was all about death and rebirth. The second season was all about time travel and future past lives. The first season also past lives. And then the Stars arc was all about consciousness. And this completely escaped me for many, many years. And this movie, when they finally did the movies based on the manga, it was right when I had my first I Am remembrance. And this like blew my mind when I got it. And I was like, holy shit. Like, I've known this show my whole life. I didn't even understand. Even when I was in college, I remember I talked to my friend one time, and we were just going shopping, and for some reason Sailor Moon popped into my head. I don't know why we were talking about Sailor Moon, but I just said, the world would be such a better place if everyone was Sailor Moon. She's defeating evil with love. She's embracing everything with love. She embraces everything, and it's something about it just spoke to me for some reason. And when I saw this movie, it all hit. Okay. Now, the first line in the movie, I'm going to read this to you from, before I go into that, sorry. So, even the third arc, so why it's an inspired work, when the third arc happened, I found a lot of articles online, and Takeuchi Sensei, she literally was talking about the entire third arc was just based around this one line that she wanted this one sailor, soldier, guardian, whatever, Saturn, to say in the show. And it was, with every ending there comes hope and rebirth. Now, that line, because that line popped in her head first, that was the inspired line, and she literally wrote an entire arc just around that line. When the 5th and final arc happened, I found another article where she literally said, she was so exhausted, she'd be coming up with character names and story arcs and things in the hallway of her editor's office, and it was just, she was so tired and stressed that all these ideas would pop into her head. And this is why, again, with Oda Sensei, who draws One Piece, he talks about starving himself and going sleep deprived just because when he's so tired, ideas come to him that's they're not him, of course, because when you're in the flow state, the ideas come through you as you, and you express them. So this is why it's the most, it blew my mind. So the first thing that was a hint to this was literally the first page of the manga, the first line in the movie. It says,誰もがみんな胸の中に星を持っているの. Now, the literal translation of the word hoshi is star, okay? And in the new translation of this book, they literally translated it as star. And in the movie on subtitles on Netflix, they also translated it the same way. Every one of us has a star in our hearts. But I got to thinking immediately, I was like, wait a second, but hoshi doesn't just mean star. It also means planet or world. It's not, it's, wakse means the scientific term for planet, but hoshi can literally mean planet, world, everything within it. So when I was thinking about that, I was like, wait a second. So I went back to the old 2011 translation, and it was literally, everyone, no matter who, has a world within their heart. Okay. Guys, are you getting, do you see where I'm going with this now? Literally, in this arc, they talk about star seed, having a star in your heart, having a world in your heart. It's literally your individual point of consciousness. And the term hoshi in the old translation from 2011, they also translate it as heavenly body in a lot of the works as well. So what is a point of consciousness? It's a heavenly body. It's a world. It's a planet. So you need to look at this from a consciousness perspective, because it literally just goes insane. Now, I'm not going to give every single plot point for the movie, not only to not ruin it, but if I did this video will be a lot longer than it needs to be. So I'm going to skip along. If you watch the movie first and come back to it, you'll understand what I'm talking about, or watch this video, then watch the movie, then come back to this. But there is such a deep lesson within this that I really want you guys to fully understand and comprehend, okay? So, excuse me as I'm like flipping through books. So within the first movie, it's divided into 2 movies, which covers both chapters or both books within this series. There's 3 heroes that come into place called Seiyako, Taikiko, and Yatenko, and they're the Starlights, or the Sailor Starlights. And even their last name, Ko, is the kanji for Hikari, okay? Now, I don't know how to not ruin this, but basically 2 of the Sailor Guardians, I think it's Jupiter and Mercury, first get killed. Everyone gets killed in this movie. It's like a bloodbath, but they first get killed. And they explain to them, Mercury and Jupiter's physical bodies were destroyed, and the source of their power, their Sailor crystals, were stolen. And she's like, wait a second, like their bodies were destroyed? Like their physical bodies were actually destroyed? What does that mean? And they said that, it goes on later and they explain again when they're talking. This is like a huge jump in the story again, because I'm not going to cover everything here because it would be forever. But they literally say to her, basically 2 other people die, a lot of people die, and she's in bed, like Sailor Moon's like in bed crying or upset or whatever, and the Starlights come to visit her. And she asks them, what do you mean when you said that their bodies were destroyed, their nikitai, like their physical bodies were destroyed? And they said, it means the death of their human selves. It was only their physical bodies that were destroyed, Sailor Moon. And she goes, death? What? They died? And he says, everything that makes a Sailor Guardian is contained in their Sailor crystals. Again, consciousness, okay, is contained in consciousness. Everything you are is your consciousness. Sailor crystals are distillations, or they say gems in the other translation, of unknown power. They will never fade away. Okay, so your point of consciousness, who you are, connected to the all that you're going to see later in this video and in this movie, it goes on forever and ever and ever. So everyone asking me what happens when my pet died, this happened, you don't go anywhere. This whole thing just keeps repeating forever and ever and ever in every single timeline, in our alternate realities. It's my belief that when you die, you just go into another reality in a physical focused frame. You never actually, it just never ends, and it just keeps going and going and going and going. Okay, and you're going to see that within this movie. It's a beautiful, beautiful illustration of how consciousness works, and it's a beautiful illustration of facing complete opposite conditions. Okay, so later on, I'm skipping ahead. I'm just giving key scenes here. She runs into, in the park, Sailor or Galaxia, who's like the big baddie of the movie. And she goes up to Sailor Moon and says, you're always surrounded by your friends. Do you really think that you're going to be able to restore their bodies? Is the future really the future? Are you sure that your future ever will, or that your future will ever truly come? What's wrong is that all you can do. So she's basically, she is the embodiment right now of the 3D conditions. Okay, and we're going to get into what Galaxia really means later in this movie, because I don't think a lot of people get it even when they watch the movie. But basically, she's the 3D conditions of the 3D world. You're trying to imagine your end, you're trying to live in your end, and the conditions pop up and they're saying to you, do you really think that your future is going to come? Do you really think that your desired future is actually going to come to place? Because you have all these conditions in front of you. In this movie, your friends are dead. How are you going to get them back? And Sailor Moon is, obviously being taunted. So the meat of the story really comes in the second volume. And I have so many things to go through here, okay? Another character dies early in the movie, Princess Kakyo. This whole story is like 30 years old. So if it's spoiling for you, I'm sorry, but go watch it. But basically, she's asking, can we be reborn again? And Sailor Moon says, 私たちはセーラークリスタルを持つ戦士だもの。何度だって生まれてこられるわ。So we're the guardians who have the Sailor crystals. We have the consciousness. We can be reborn as many times as we need. Okay, that's like one little thing that popped out at me. And then finally, Sailor Moon's like chasing Sailor Galaxia. She has to kill all her friends, and they end up at this place called the Galaxy Cauldron, which is literally, it's like the now moment. It's the vertical moment of now, where everything, the energy is flowing through you. and as you. It is literally the moment of now where all possibilities exist. It's pure consciousness. And she literally says, this is the star's holy land, the sanctuary of, or in the other translation, it says the sanctuary of heavenly bodies. So if you watch the Netflix version, it says this is the star's holy land. The other one says this is the sanctuary of heavenly bodies. So if you put two and two together, this is literally the point of consciousness. Like, this is the now moment of consciousness. That you're not going to understand this unless you're really looking between the language translations, okay? And she says, all the stars and planets of the Milky Way are born here. But the other one says it's the birthplace of all the Milky Way's heavenly bodies. So it's the birthplace of all points of consciousness. This is the sacred place where there's more potential than anywhere else in the galaxy. Okay, and if you see the movie, it's just beautiful. The way they animated it, all the colors, and I really think it just looks amazing and really illustrates the point, okay? This is where everything exists and where everything passes away. Although you'll find out later that nothing really passes away. So they're battling, blah, 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 blah. And then they find this thing called chaos, which is the ultimate enemy of, it's just pure evil energy. And Galaxia was trying to kind of beat chaos, and then she was going to work with chaos. They were kind of together, but she wanted to betray chaos and then kill Sailor Moon. But what ended up happening was chaos tried to kill Galaxia, and Sailor Moon ended up saving her. So this is chaos talking, saying, I am that which failed to form into a planet or a heavenly body or consciousness, and the ruler of the cauldron of dark stars. Child, you who have inherited the power of the cauldron's beautiful light, your kin, or in other translations, your siblings, born from the same sea as yourself, the wicked dark stars were slain with your own hand. Sorry, I can't even read my own writing. I have so much written here. With your hand, you have eliminated evil heavenly bodies of darkness, my fellow siblings, born from the same sea, is the other translation. And you made your name known throughout the galaxy. Is that not so? So basically, you've killed all these dark enemies, and with your beautiful light, you've made yourself known. You've made your name known throughout the entire galaxy. Okay? And Sailor Moon doesn't really understand this. She goes, he says they all started here and traveled across space-time. They are your siblings. They are your kin, is another translation, I think, in the Netflix version. And she goes, my kin, my siblings, fellow siblings, wicked dark stars, evil heavenly bodies of darkness. So the evil conditions, the unwanted 3D conditions were born from me. Twisted incarnations of darkness who wander the galaxy seeking the power of light. The evil you have destroyed were all extensions, and the other translation literally uses the word manifestations of me. And I'm sorry if my necklace is I have a feeling this necklace is probably driving you guys nuts with the microphone. And I'm sorry if the first half of the video has the necklace hitting it. So we're just going to take that off. Sorry, I can hear it. I'm like, is that bothering you guys? So basically what he's saying is everything was born from you. They're all you. All the conditions, all these evil enemies that you faced this entire time throughout this entire series were all born from you. So she goes, the enemies I've battled or been fighting up until now were all born from the same place. They were my siblings. And another translation were all the stars, the heavenly bodies I've been fighting up until now. So they were all me. They were all my siblings. I'm related to them. I'm them. They are me. And then he goes on to this whole, monologue I'm not going to go into, but he talks about light summons darkness, and darkness always summons light, which is another thing from the Sailor Moon, universe that they talk about, which is the law of polarity, which they go into pretty deeply. And so skipping ahead, Chaos then turns on Galaxia, and Galaxia is starting to, they're sitting there. It's Galaxia, Sailor Moon, and then this girl named Chibi Chibi, who you're going to find out in the movie. You'll watch it and you'll see who she is. But basically, Chibi Chibi is Sailor Moon from the future. It is Sailor Cosmos, and she came from the future to have Sailor Moon make a choice, which we'll get into. But basically, the choice is Sailor Moon needs to either destroy the cauldron in the entire universe or save it. But if she saves it, chaos, the darkness, the 3D conditions, they might shrink and disappear, but they'll still exist. Now, Chibi Chibi, as Sailor Cosmos, she did not make that choice to destroy it, and she came back to tell Sailor Moon, you have to make the right choice, okay? So she says, this is Chibi calling, I think. It says, darkness calls to light, and light in turn calls to the darkness. Is that the will of the galaxy? And oh, this is Sailor Moon talking to herself, sorry. But if I destroy the cauldron, there won't be any new stars or heavenly bodies or worlds. Then one day the galaxy really won't have a future. As long as there are stars, as long as new stars or heavenly bodies or points of consciousness continue to be born, conflict will never cease. Because again, that's the way of the world. And then Sailor Moon comes into okay, so then Sailor Moon's talking about, do I have to be like Sailor Saturn, and I'm the one who's gonna, Sailor Saturn's a soldier of destruction. Do I have to destroy the entire planet this time? Is it my turn to have to kill everybody? And Galaxia then says, a new future will begin somewhere, and it may breed light and darkness again. That's strange. I didn't think I had words like this still left in me. You're right. New futures are born all the time, and that will never stop. So now Galaxia is like waking up from, being a baddie, and she's thinking, oh my God, like I still can say, these beautiful words inside me. Who is Sailor Moon? Sailor Moon is here depicted as an angel because she is the angel of heaven, essentially. And they keep going on, so I don't know who's making this thing right now. I think it's Galaxia still talking. And those futures will have light and darkness, war and hope, life and death, joy and sorrow. They'll have these things all over again, or, and they will all exist all over again. Everything, that is what the universe is. The universe is, they use the word subete. Subete ga, sore ga kono uchu nano yo. The universe is everything. It is literally everything. It is all inclusive. The conditions, everything exists within this one universe, within this one great consciousness of the all. It's all one, okay? The law of 1-1-1, it all exists. So Sailor Galaxia is reaching out to Sailor Moon before she dies, and she says, Sailor Moon, do you have faith, or do you believe in this universe into the far distant future? So do you really have faith in the hope, in the bright future of your world, of this world, so far into the future with all these 3D conditions standing before you? Do you still have faith? Are you the guardian who embraces everything and everyone? Or are you a guardian that can embrace anything? Right? The power of love overcoming 3D conditions, embracing the conditions, which we're going to get into in a minute. And then Galaxia fades away and blah, 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 blah. And then now Sailor Moon is talking to Chibi Chibi, who's telling her, destroy everything, destroy the world, do it. That's the only way the world can be saved. And Sailor Moon does another monologue with Chibi Chibi and says, so don't you give up hope or faith either. Don't give up on your future. Have faith. Our star of hope, or our point of consciousness, our world, will never burn out. As long as that star keeps shining, as long as you keep lighting up your desired reality, as long as your point of consciousness keeps shining, we'll be okay. We won't lose. Okay? Because the conditions don't matter, because nothing matters, because this is everything. Okay? So then, Chibi Chibi, from her word, she becomes Sailor Cosmos and turns into this, eternal being. And Sailor Moon is now facing chaos, which is literally the manifestation of all negative 3D conditions. Okay? So she stands up and she says, literally, Queen Metallia, all her, previous enemies, Death Phantom, Pharaoh 90, Nehelenia, and Galaxia, I finally understand why you were all so desperate, or why you all sought out for my power, why you guys all wanted my bright light. And this is the scene that is just amazing. She's about to jump into the cauldron. It's the same feeling that made me need my beloved, or makes me need loved ones. That makes me so desperate to be with my friends. It's for the exact same reason I used to seek out loved ones and beloved comrades. We are all lonely stars, okay? We're all under the illusion of loneliness within this point, our individual points of consciousness. We all feel separated from the whole. That's what she's saying here. We are all lonely stars, all lonely heavenly bodies or points of consciousness. That's why we seek each other out. We want to be united together. Okay, they use the word hitotsu, as one. We want to be as one. Okay, together as one, because that is how we were in the beginning. And she uses the term sugata. That was our original form. It all begins for us. So now I too will seek you out and embrace you inside this cauldron. In order to save us all, in order to save everything, subete, or everyone and anything. I don't know what the Netflix version used, but I'm going to jump into this cauldron, into the moment of now, to save everything, because it is everything, because we are all one. She's realizing that her enemies, up until this point, were all her. There was no separation. Even Chaos said they're your siblings. She was fighting the 3D conditions. She was the 3D condition. She was basically fighting herself. Okay, and then they have this beautiful little page that wasn't included in the movie. It's like a poster or a chapter marker where they do the color pages that they just didn't translate. But it says, "Dono toki mo akiramenai wa." Kibo stetari shinai. So no matter what, I'm not going to give up. I'm not going to throw away my faith or my hope. Okay? Now it goes on, and she's going into the cauldron, and she says, "I will save us all, or I will save everything." They use the word subete. Is it even possible, or am I able to do this? I don't know. But, okay, she has these flashbacks to Mamo-chan, her boyfriend / you'll have to watch the movie, but she just says, "Stop doubting yourself and fight." And then they flash back to Sailor Saturn saying that line, "With every ending there comes hope and rebirth." So the Sailor crystals, or I am consciousness, is what gives us hope. It's our one true hope, our point of consciousness, knowing that we are connected to the all, to everything, as our own individual points, and we're never alone, we're never lonely, we're connected to everything and everyone, and all those conditions are coming outside of us. That knowledge is what gives us hope, because it never, ever fades away. So she jumps into the cauldron, she releases her power. She even uses the word, I think it's like eternal crystal power. Again, the final form as Sailor Moon in this series is Eternal Sailor Moon. I mean, even the naming, Eternal Sailor Moon, it goes on forever. The guardian of love and justice eternally. She goes into the cauldron, she releases her power. It's a beautifully animated scene, and then her physical body also fades away. So now they have these other Sailor Guardians who you don't even need to worry about who they are, but they're the guardians for Sailor Moon's daughter from the future. Again, it's a vast world I can't get into in one video, but they're talking to Sailor Cosmos, who's talking about the Lambda power. And the Lambda power, I looked up what Lambda meant, and it literally means, I think that one of the Webster's definitions was the expansion of the universe. So the power of the expansion of the universe that Sailor Moon was able to unleash is what is now reincarnating everybody back to their original timelines, whatever timeline that they choose. And they say, "Oh my God, are you Sailor Moon's ultimate form? Are you her final form?" Right? That sounds like a really cool, like, "Are you the final form?" But she says, basically, she's talking about, she does this monologue, how she ran away from the future and blah, 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 blah. But Sailor Moon was the one who was able to embrace the conditions. And she says, this is where all the galaxies, they're still at the cauldron. This is where all the galaxy stars, or heavenly bodies, points of consciousness, are born, and when they return at their journey's end. In her effort to take chaos, the source of all her enemies, into herself, Eternal Sailor Moon and her adversary dissolved into the primordial sea together. So that's how you dissolve the conditions, guys. You take them in, you embrace them, because they are you. You are the conditions. Just like Sailor Moon, she literally embraced her enemy. She didn't fight him. She didn't try to destroy him. She embraced all of it into one, and she dissolved with it, but you'll see that she gets a choice again. Now, even the way that the cauldron is, I want to stop for a second, but even the way the cauldron is animated in the movie, it's the vertical moment of now. Like, you can see her going down vertically into the cauldron. And if you want to think of it as past, now, future, it's a realm of infinite possibilities is the moment of now. It's right now. It's all now. See, even the light shining on Sailor Moon. It's all now. All of it is now. The past, the present, future, there's only the moment of now. That's where she is going into, and that's where she's embracing all her conditions, because she knows that they're all coming from her. Okay? So Sailor Cosmos is still going on this little monologue. I won't run away anymore. I can move on forward, or the other translation is forward now. Eternal Sailor Moon has blessed me with great power. The power of courage to throw it all away, and the power of courage to accept everything. And the other translation says everything or everyone and everything. AKA, she gave me the power to accept the 3D conditions. Guys, I got chills watching this movie. Like, I got chills reading the manga after in Japanese, because I'd never seen the original, the Japanese version for it. I just never read it. And she says, I had almost forgotten this invincible power, because again, your power to choose is invincible. The power of I am is invincible. So then she says, It was Eternal Sailor Moon who just saved the galaxy. She is the true form or sugata of Sailor Cosmos. When I, like Eternal Sailor Moon, gained the courage to throw it all away and accept everything, everyone and everything, the 3D conditions, that is when I will truly become Sailor Cosmos. So Sailor Cosmos in the movie, I originally thought she was like the I am or the higher self of Sailor Moon. But Sailor Moon literally transcended and became one with and went beyond her higher self. She went to level 7. Like level 6 is Sailor Cosmos. Sailor Moon just went right above into level 7, even though 6 and 7 are the same thing. She was the one who was able to embrace the 3D conditions, and she's the one who saved her own world through that embrace of love. She brought it all in, and then you're going to see that she chooses again. So now they're inside this the cauldron, and there's this. I mean, it's a crazy movie, guys. But they're inside the cauldron, and they meet this sailor. I think it's like Sailor Cauldron or something. I forget, or Sailor Galaxia, Guardian Cosmos. That's her name. It's this little like spirit guardian inside the thing, and they give her the choice. Do you want to go back to your original timeline with your friends, or do you want to start over again? And Sailor Moon said, and all the Guardians say, we want to stick to this original timeline. We want to go back together. So she says, for this is the place where heavenly bodies or stars or consciousness and all potential, all possibilities are born. That's how I know this is consciousness. This is a moment of now. They say it right here. Koko wa hoshi ga, again, hoshi, consciousness, point of consciousness, the everything, right? Soshite kanosei ga umareru tokoro dakara, right? This is where everything is born. And then finally, they after the movie, you should watch it after the credits, because both movies have after credit scenes. And on the last scene in the movie, it's she gets married, which they didn't have in the old anime. And the final thing is Mamo-chan looks at Sailor Moon and says, Sailor Moon, you will never burn out. You will likely be forever immortal, is another way to translate that. You will be the star or the heavenly body point of consciousness that shines brightest and most beautifully for all eternity. Okay, and then at the very end of the movie, there was a handwritten note by Takeuchi Sensei. So again, watch till the very end past the credit scene, and there was this note from her in Japanese. And it read, 見てくださってありがとうございます。心より感謝申し上げます。光が満ち溢れる幸せな未来が訪れますように. Which translates to, thank you for watching. I am grateful from the bottom of my heart. I wish you a happy future overflowing with light. Okay? Hikari. This is when, I watched this whole movie unfold until this very last scene, and that note came up, and I was just like, oh... I'm having this I am awakening. I'm remembering. I'm seeing it. I'm literally seeing it unfold before my eyes. And then the author herself writes that message. And I think it was earlier this year in January or February of 2024, where she did an interview with Vogue magazine Japan. And she literally talked about how lately she's been interested in the power of prayer. What the prayer can do, and it was just this really interesting article where she's literally talking about it. So she gets it on a I don't think she gets it from the conscious perspective level of fully understanding that Source is speaking through her, but she's understanding it, and the more that it unfolds, the more she's understanding, okay, there's something here. And the power of prayer, if you follow Neville Goddard and you understand his teachings and the law of assumption, it's just hitting your mark, right? It's lighting up your desire. It's living in your end. It's using your power in nobly and really lighting up and embodying the life and being the person that you want to be. That is prayer. That is why I guess back in the early 2010s, I made that comment to my friend. If everyone could be like Sailor Moon, I didn't even know what that meant. But truly, it's becoming one with your point of consciousness. It's shining as the bright center of your own world and realizing that there's nothing out there. It's all an illusion projected from you, even the 3D circumstances, even the things that you view as negative conditions. All of it is you. It's all coming from your point of awareness as a point of consciousness. Okay? And I wanted to reference Sailor Moon because this movie, I just think it illustrates it so, not just the movie, the series, but you don't have to watch the whole series to watch the movie if you have any idea what Sailor Moon is. But I mean, look at a little Netflix thing or watch what to watch before Sailor Moon Cosmos on YouTube. But if you watch the whole show, if you really want to get invested, you watch the 90s anime first, which is 200 episodes, so that's a big commitment, but it'll flesh out the characters for you, and then you watch Crystal. But if you watch Crystal, the first 2 seasons are pretty shitty, I'm not going to lie, but get through them, and then you watch season 3, Eternal movies 1 and 2, and then Cosmos, or you can just watch Cosmos together. but it is the story of consciousness. Sailor Moon is the story. It's a masterclass in conscious manifestation. It talks about embracing the 3D conditions. It talks about what consciousness is. It talks about how this life goes on and on and on and on, how you choose, how you're existing in all time frames, how it never ends and there's nothing outside of you. And that's why I think if everyone could learn something like this, again, this is inspired work from Naoko Takeuchi herself, I think that you guys will really step into your power, okay? So I think that is everything I wanted to cover with Sailor Moon in this video. Again, I wanted to get this out there ASAP because I have other video ideas that I want to branch off of this, and I will be referencing this video quite a lot. Again, if you guys are unsure, just watch it. Just watch it, understand it. Watch it in Japanese. Do not watch it with the English dub. There's a reason for that. Even if the English dub is being as accurate as they're trying to be, first of all, I can't stand the voices in English. And second of all, that's no offense to the voice actors. They're all very talented, but it just jars me. But the Japanese version is the actual writing. You're listening to what the author fully intended. Even if you don't understand it, the message is still going to come to you. You can watch it with the English subtitles, reference this video, but you will literally see in the second Cosmos movie especially consciousness, all of consciousness. What the moment of now is, the vertical moment of now when you make your choice, or desire a choice. You don't lose faith in what you want to do or who you want to be or whatever it is that you're trying to manifest or see. You become that person now. Be like Sailor Moon. Okay, guys. This video was long in the making. It was a little bit kind of all over the place a little bit, but thank you for sticking with me. Again, if you guys want to work with me, I've been getting amazing results with my coaching so far. You guys are amazing. I have some clients are coming back and they give one success story and then they're giving another success story and then they have another success story and I'm trying to unpack or explain every single one of what they do. But again, you're just being the person and using your awareness to focus on who you want to be from any moment of time. But I know that the 3D illusion up until this point, it does trick us sometimes, or it can be very tricky. So if you need help navigating that, or at least knowing where your awareness has been, I'm happy to see for the blind for you, as they say in the Bible. Okay? All right. I love you guys. Thank you so much. And yeah, I'll have another video out soon. All right.